Hello everyone, I'm Meltdownboy. Today I want to talk to you about Iron Lung. I love the movie. It's a fantastic movie, and coming out of my second screening, I just had so many questions, so many theories as I was driving with me and a friend back home from the cinema. So I want to first of all talk about my thoughts on the film, the things that I loved, the things that really inspired me, and also just little trinkets of things that I personally loved about the movie. And then I want to talk about the secrets, the sort of hidden things and theories that I had that I just want to share with all of you people that I presume loved the movie as much as I did. So let's begin. To start off, if you don't know what Iron Lung is, even though there's like a mountain of videos that I'm still receiving in my recommended, it's a psychological horror film and game in which humanity became spacefaring and explored the galaxy, colonized planets, did immensely great things until one day the event known as the Quiet Rapture, which even just saying it gives me chills, or speaking about it gives me chills, because what it is it was a cataclysmic event or an apocalyptic event in which out of nowhere, no word, no warning, all habitable planets, moons, stars disappeared without a sound or anything to mark when it happened or why it happened, and all that was left was all the space stations and spacecraft that had people on them that were not in those habitable bits. What then starts happening afterwards is the appearance of blood oceans on the only thing left, which is asteroids and moons. So blood oceans start forming on moons, and one specific one called AT5 has been targeted by the Coalition of Iron to go investigate the blood ocean, and which they send down convicts to investigate what could have happened, why there's blood oceans, to see if there's anything that can be salvaged from these blood oceans, or even answers for why everything disappeared. Things I love from the game that kind of translate into the movie is that sort of really feeling of desperation and hopelessness and isolation, and I think the movie translates that almost perfectly. I think much like how the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie had an element of like just doing what the game does, Iron Lung does even better than that, where a good chunk of the first bit of the movie is just the game. Bit for bit, word for word. There's even the map that Markiplier or Simon has that is ripped straight from the game, and I think that's so cool, and I'll get into some other things that I thought were really cool in a minute. It's just so cool to see a game be represented one-to-one, and it's kind of got me thinking about what horror games should be adapted next. I think maybe A Fears to Fathom would be cool. I think the one that I really want to see is mouthwashing. That's for another topic for another day. I think it's so cool that the map is the way it is. Like it's ripped straight from the game. But not only that, it's like the top bit of it is cut, and so you don't see beyond a certain point, where in the game you do see beyond that point. And what's fascinating to me on second rewatch after playing the game the night of watching the movie, and seeing how similar it is and how much it feels to be sort of in Simon or the convict's position afterwards. But I think it's really cool that everything is placed exactly where it is in the game. When Simon gets dragged by the eel, which you now know it's an eel, all the way to the bit up to the top right, for one, that's exactly where you find the fish at the end of the game. That's where it takes you, well, that's where it destroys your submarine at the end of the game, which is so cool that it's in that exact spot. For two, the light that like emits and you can go see it, it makes this camera even like wobble, is in the exact same place that it is from movie to game, and I think that's so cool because they didn't have to do that. In fact, they could have like made their own map, made little alterations, but the fact that they kept everything pretty much one-to-one is crazy for a video game movie. There's so many things, like The Last of Us changed everything in the second season. I think Sonic's in a similar way keeps everything the same, but you have stuff like the old Mario movies, or even just there's so many video game movies that will just not translate the correct things. A good example of that is the recent Silent Hill 2. It's called Return to Silent Hill, but is basically Silent Hill 2. But it's crazy to me that they don't carry over most things from that. I think it's, if you know something works well, I think you shouldn't change things, and that's exactly what Markiplier did here with his direction and writing and everything. So I think that's so cool, and I don't see enough appreciation for the fact that everything's in the exact spot where it is in the game, which is something that they didn't have to do once again. But I think it's awesome. Another thing I love is that you get some proper explanation for what the camera does. I love the idea that it's an X-ray, and that's such a cool reveal in the movie, because when Jacksepticeye gets blasted with radiation, you just see his skeleton, and you're like, oh! I even on first viewing, I was like, oh, that's interesting. That does so much to explain and expand the world than the game did, and I think that's so cool. And it explains so much of, like, there's a huge debate on, like, Reddit of, like, was that a skeleton or was it the eel, but you could see it's, like, skeleton. Which I think what the X-ray does is it just X-rays through the blood to get an image. Less so much, I think it gets, especially when it's in blood, I think it just acts as a camera. Out of it, I think it acts as an X-ray. I think that's kind of how it seems to work in the movie, at least. Another thing that I love that the movie does is they use so much of the screen where you see all the pictures. Like, they use it for so much tension, and it's genuinely quite unnerving when the delay from pressing the button to seeing something on the screen. And that's less so much in the movie. I love that they instead translate that to, like, him having to keep pressing the button when the lights went out. I think there is still a lot of tension of what's he going to see when he presses the button. Especially when he presses the button and the camera's really far away and you see the eel from far away in the shot, and then you're like, oh, what's that? And then it shows his reaction. He's like, huh? It shows what he saw, and it's horrifying. I think the design of that eel is incredible. Deadly melodic, like, should have won some kind of award for that, and hopefully they will. Because, wow, Deadly Melodic should be incredibly proud of that. It's really good design work, and it works amazingly when it's got the full X-ray effect on it. It looks so cool. But yeah, they use so much of the camera, like him having to constantly press it to get light to see anything is such a neat way of doing it. I like that he has a flashlight, but it's not your conventional flashlight, it's one on a life jacket. I think that's so creative and so Markiplier, I suppose, is in that, like, if you've watched, like, In Space or A Date With or A Heist With, I think it really comes across how creative Mark is, especially with the cinematography. The movie's nuts. Like, there's some transitions that I've seen on TikTok. There's some shots that they, to my surprise, the highlight was whenever they did something really fancy and weird with the triangle that shows the orientation of the submarine. I think incredible. Wow. Philip Roy, the cinematographer, should be so proud of his work. It's outstanding. A big shout out to the VFX as well. There's some really awesome shots that kind of translate later into my sort of thoughts on the sort of secrets and the lore and what this movie has to say about this story from the game. There's one shot with, like, what will be future mutated Mark looking back at him, and I think that looks amazing. My jaw was like on the floor with how, like, nice that shot looked. I think that goes hand in hand with the cinematography as well, because I think those two just meshed so well and it had such a unique style. But with the, like, VFX, the special effects, everything coming all together. Another shot that I really liked was when the eel came through the submarine, and it looked kind of like how it does in the game. But it came through, you could see the eye in slow motion, all the blood is rushing around. And I'll get back to what goes on in that scene in a minute. But that shot looks really cool, and to hear that maybe at some point that was also kind of practical with, like, a dilating pupil. Awesome. And once again, everyone should be proud of that. I think every shot in this movie looks really cool. I think the stuff at the beginning, the shot when you actually get to see the quiet rapture happen, and it looks like someone selected the planet and then just pressed delete and shot. I was like, whoa. Because I've seen some edits of like it kind of looking like when light disappears from, like, when the sun disappears from behind a planet, and it kind of just disappears into blackness. I saw that effect. I'm sure I'll put it on screen and credit the person, but I thought it would look like that. But I love the inspired choice of it just being like gone. The acting is incredible. The voice acting. Markiplier is obviously incredible at this. It's honestly his best acting he's done, and he was really good in like Heist, in Space. I think he should be really proud of his sort of acting and how he's self-funded this. Again, he should be really proud of this. But like everyone in this movie does a really good job. Jacksepticeye does it for that one shot that he's in, but he looks genuinely pissed off, and it's incredible. Troy Baker, I've met the guy, and he's lovely, and he always does a great job, but here he really like sold the sort of, like he says in the movie, we need this, like, and wow, he does a really good job. And it's fun to see him, like, it was cool to, like, in my second viewing I actually saw him in the movie. In my first viewing I didn't see his face, and then I was looking for it in the second viewing, but it looks it's really cool to see him in this movie. Caroline Kaplan should be really proud. She's the like captain of the ship, and like with the prosthetics on, and she looks so cool, and also just does a really good job of kind of displaying this sort of tough captain of a ship that's like forced to do a horrible thing, and I think it really comes through the whole time, and she should again be proud of her work, and I hope she gets more acting jobs because of this, of the success that this movie's had. Yeah, everyone does an amazing job. Everyone does an amazing job. The music is also fantastic. Andrew Hirschholt, I believe his name is. He's done some work on the DLCs for Doom Eternal, which I am only now playing, but I think he should be proud of his work in Doom as well. I think when those DLCs came out, he got a lot of like flack for not being a Mick Gordon, and Mick Gordon's amazing, don't get me wrong, but I think Andrew Hirschholt really shows off his talent in the DLC, and especially here. He really shows off. I think you get so invested in the music. I love that there's like a I saw one of his videos recently where he talked about like there was a scream that he added into like the mix of one bit later on, but I think even in the trailers I thought this is incredible, and once again he should be proud of this. It's awesome, like wow. It really fills you with dread, and honestly I would listen to this soundtrack anyway. It's awesome. But those are my general appreciation bits for each department. I hope David Szymanski is as proud as he should be for making such a cool world, cool concept, cool like horror thing. I love horror, and I hope to do a video on my favorite horror genres and aesthetics in the future. So I think Iron Lung will definitely be among those. Now I want to talk to you about the secrets of Iron Lung, the things I noticed on my drive home while talking to my friend about all the little tiny little details, all the little things. I think my main theory is sort of that there has to be some sort of time loop that's going on here. I think it's kind of very in space with Markiplier in that way. Here done really subtly and really well, that you could have like a full-blown debate and conversation about it. You never get fully the right answer, but like I mentioned before, at some point you see like a monster version of Simon that you see him become later at the very end of the movie when he's destroying the ship. Breaking the teeth, I didn't realize those were teeth until my friend pointed that out to me. I thought they were pipes. I was like, where did these pipes come from? but they're teeth, and I think that's really cool. Anyway, he transforms and gets like teeth growing out of his side, and it looks just like the monster that he kept on seeing throughout the submarine early on in the movie. I think that's so cool because it kind of looks like the eel. So it's possible, and I think this is sort of my theory, but also it doesn't kind of line up when you think of the design of the eel that Deadly Melodic has shown off. But especially in the movie, it looks a lot like this. That he gets sucked into the blood, he becomes the eel, and then through whatever happened with the Quiet Rapture or the light, he gets brought back in time to before, and he sort of, or at the very least his monster version of himself gets put back at the start, and he sort of is guiding the younger version of him around the ship. I saw a post recently that was saying how it's interesting that like both times you see the monster version of him, they swap places. When you initially see him, he's near the computer that's behind near where the light is, and then later on when you see him, after he's gone through the hell of seeing the giant eye in the sky, after he's gone through the light, which I have a thoughts on what that does. I thought it was really cool that the idea that he's there as well in the exact opposite position and moving in the exact same way as he once did before, which I think is fascinating, and there has to be sort of like a time loop. But also like I mentioned before, when he transforms and has the teeth growing out of himself, he looks like he's becoming the eel. And it could be that he becomes the eel, gets sent back in time, some cosmic horror type thing, and I think that would be really cool if he ends up becoming the eel. Some other things that sort of I thought were really cool. There's one shot in particular, this is a side note. There's a bit where he hears the sound from the computer screen playing, like a audio message from the SM8, and I thought it's really cool that he looked at the speaker and then went, oh shit, it's not that, it's the screen, which I thought was really cool. And the other theories I have, I love the idea that in the movie it kind of poses this idea that perhaps it's like a god or some sort of cosmic deity that's just looking at our universe, and the backlash from that is that, or the side effect from that is that it like things from the universe, and that's just the consequence of a cosmic god just being like, what's going on over here? I think that's really cool. I love that the movie poses, like Simon says it, that wouldn't it make more sense or be more logical? They were transported to a parallel pocket universe and everyone else was just waiting for them to come back. I think that's a really inspired and intriguing idea to say. I think I wouldn't have thought of it. I think everyone took the idea that everyone else had vanished at face value and never thought, I don't think that's the answer, and I definitely prefer more the desolation of everyone else disappearing. But I think there's so much interest in what that is. Another interesting thing, like I mentioned with the eye coming through when you see the eel coming through, is that much like how Simon would make deals with Caroline Kaplan's character, he would say deal to whatever she said, or like that we had a deal that you would let me free or whatnot. But when the eel comes through, it says deal. And then later on, I think the deal was something to do with him surviving, but maybe not telling them what he saw, or maybe infecting everyone else. Because why else would it transport him back to not where, it pretty much just where he had been, where the eel had grabbed him and pulled him into what I presumed, I took it as that the eel took it to its feeding area. Or if you put it into perspective that is Simon has become the eel, is trying to direct it to complete the loop. It's pulling it away to get it into that circle bit at the top of the map, so that it can complete the cycle and and move on and whatnot. And I think it's so cool if that's the case. But also it's a hive mind, and you can see on the design of the eel it has multiple bodies put into it. So I don't know where that would fall in line with previous missions that have been sent down or anything like that. But I think there's so much intrigue, and I love that the movie doesn't explicitly say any of these things are true. But yeah, the light sends him back to a place where he can get signal, and also where he originally was when he rammed the skeleton. And I think that's really cool that maybe he made a deal with it to survive, essentially, which was all that he ever wanted. Even the lady from the SM8 over the speaker or microphone sort of says, like, what would you do to survive? And he says everything, and then that crazy stuff happens. So I think that must be the deal that was sort of struck, is that he survives, but at the cost of like maybe his own his own being. But yes, I think there's so many cool concepts and ideas that this movie throws into the mix, and I think once again Markiplier and all the team should be really proud of the story that they've made. And yeah, I think there has to be something going on here overall with this cosmic entity and the sort of machinations and plans that they have in motion. But yes, thank you very much for watching this video. I love the movie, and I hope you've enjoyed watching me yap about it for so long. And let me know what you thought of the movie, and let me know what you think of my wacky theories and concepts. I want to see if you have any fun theories, and I look forward to reading them and seeing what you guys all have to think. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a most triumphant day. Thank you very much.